technical advice comes after the human experience because that's how it makes sense in my head. If I don't even know who you are, how do I know what I need to do for you?
In every single interaction, there comes a moment when we wonder, do you see me? Do you hear me? Welcome to the Heart to Heart podcast. I'm your host, Gayathri Shukla, and I'm the founder of Campfire Kinship, an organization building inclusive cultures through storytelling. This season is about exploring something that is core to being human, and that is our need to belong. So imagine gathering around a campfire with stories reaching your heart. I am partnering with CJSW 90.9 and recording in Mohkinstsis or Calgary, a sacred place where the Bow and Elbow Rivers meet, and home to Blackfoot Confederacy, Tsuut'ina, Stoney Nakoda Nations, Métis Nation, and all residents of Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hearth to Heart. Today, I'm very excited to welcome a special guest, Shivika Sharma from Sharma Wealth. I first met Shivika, I think it was through a mutual connection, Shivika, right? And I remember when you reached out over LinkedIn, and it was like you're also very entrepreneurial in your journey, and I am an entrepreneur, so we connected, and then I felt very honored that you recently invited me to speak at a panel event all about money and women's experiences around money. And then you've also signed up to be one of our sponsors for our upcoming book launch, The Fire Sweet Lit, which I'm very grateful for. So I am so excited and honored that you accepted this invitation to be part of the Heart to Heart podcast today. And I would love to invite you to share a little bit about your own journey and what brings you here in this moment.
Thank you, first of all. And I'm so glad the universe put us together. It took us some time to connect with our busy schedules, but I'm so glad we were able to connect. And it was a very organic one. And I think that's why we are here today, that it didn't feel forced in any way. So thank you for that. And thank you for having me on this podcast. I've been listening to you for a long time. I have read your first book and I'm looking forward to the second book as well. I'm so excited. So thank you for that. So as you officially gave me an introduction already, I am Shivika Sharma. I am an investment advisor at Sharma Wealth, Richardson Wealth. And how I came about to be personally and professionally are two very different journeys, as we know. But I think if I had to suffice it into one, is I recognize the gap between what technical financial advice and a real human experience. So if I talk about my journey into Sharma Wealth, especially, or how I came about to be the investment advisor or having this wealth practices, I felt that money was very, money wasn't really connected to relationship. Money wasn't really connected to something that happens to us personally. It was, we would always compartmentalize our life into personal, professional, financial. And I always felt like that's not, I didn't resonate with that because our personal lives are impacted by our finances are impacted by personal life, and the same goes for our professional lives in terms of the careers we choose or the careers we change into, right? So they all come about to be together in one thing. So recognizing that gap and making sure that everything starts from a conversation around finances should be from a place of overall a mutual connection between your personal life and your professional life and not talk in silos about these parts of your story. So I think that's how I came about to be where I am today, is with recognizing that gap.
Shivika, I think when I think about the topic of this or the theme of this podcast on storytelling and belonging, I think what you're sharing is so perfectly embedded into that because you're right. We're not all just one thing, right? Although, as much as the societal rules might tell us, when you're at work, you have to have your work game on and just be professional and leave out your personal. I think over a period of time, and especially over COVID, we've started to realize that there is that work-life blurring, and as it should be, right? We're not just one thing. And I really appreciate you sharing your journey, because I do think this is about being seen for who you are and the wholeness of who you are. And that's what belonging is to me. When I have always felt that about our connection, even when you reached out, this just feel like I'm a whole person. This isn't just about this mutual fund or this investment here, or just about what I do at work or where I financially want to be, but this is about the whole person. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, is this something that you felt was always part of you, even as you were going through your journey and stumbled it, or actually, I would love to hear how you found this career path, but was this something that you felt was always part of you, or something that you stumbled into as you went about your career journey?
I can count on you for asking the most apt questions. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I would say that it was a combination of both. I didn't just stumble on it, but in a way I did. Okay. So finance was always like the first love. Coming into a new country when you're establishing your career, I'm fortunate enough to find, I would say, to find a position in the world of finance that I was looking to get into. So the journey started from pretty much the front desk of a major bank. So that's where I started. And I love when journeys begin from, I don't like to call them the bottom, but the most learning heavy roles, because then as you're moving up the ladder or as you're moving ahead in your professional journey, you have a sense of understanding and a sense of respect for what your colleagues are doing in those positions. So you don't come across as someone who's demanding too much because you don't know how long a task would take, right? So I feel having an understanding of those roles as you are going through them makes you a better professional overall, no matter where you land up. Because our careers might be different, but people skills are the same. They're exactly the same in no matter what industry you go into. So, in a way, it was, as I said, not stumbled upon because I was working in this industry from the very beginning back in, I don't know, early to mid 2000s. However, the reason I said it's a mix is how I stumbled upon this is when I would sit in front of these conversations, financial conversations with, let's say, households. A conventional household might be a husband and a wife together, and they're coming in for a financial advice. And you could see the difference in how the questions were being asked from the male partner versus the female partner. The male partner was very, in terms of they knew what they were asking, and they were, I would say, they had that sense of, I need to have an answer to this because this is an important question. And I love that confidence. That's how we learn from each other. Whereas in majority of in my female clients, it was a sense of hesitation where it felt like they were carrying these quiet stories about money. I should know this already. I'm behind, or I don't fit here. And they start internalizing the silence, the pressure, or confusion before asking any question. So it was more about coming to a level where I could be beneficial to both the partners and not just focusing on one. And that's where I figured out is there is a huge gap. That's where I stumbled upon in all these meetings over the years is there's a huge gap on how you deal with one part of the society versus another. And it's not to say that one part is better than the other. Both are equally strong, both have different things to bring on the table and different values. However, we need to realize and accept that everyone is different. Everyone has a different struggle with finances, and everyone has a different level of understanding of finances. It's nothing to do that you're a professional or you're a homemaker or you're a man or a woman, but we can't generalize that everyone already knows what they're going to ask in a meeting. So to have that sense of proactiveness, to have that sense of understanding, and to create that space that it's okay that you don't have questions. But let me tell you what I think as a professional might benefit you in this situation. So I think that's what I stumbled across. And it was always a dream with my colleague Asha and I to have to create a wealth practice where truly in the sense of the word, I think it's been overused, but I still feel that's the best word as an inclusive practice where we're not expecting you to know everything when you come to us, but we are expecting an open conversation, an honest conversation, where when you leave with at least that sense that I was heard, I was respected, and I know more than what I walked in with. So that's how I would say it came across.
And also the thank you for sharing that what inclusivity means to you, Shivika. And I think also what you're saying is something that I deeply resonate with is you have to listen for those differences and nuances in each person's level of understanding. Everybody approaches it differently, and we don't want to apply blanket generalizations, but how do you go about that process of truly listening to what their unique needs are?
I think where it starts from is not talking about any products in your first meeting. I always tell people who are coming to see us is we are not going to talk about where you can invest your money. Okay. Because I don't even know you right now. You don't even know me right now. We don't get, it's, I don't know if you remember, there was this, we have this arranged marriage system in India, but even that's evolved over the years. But initial years, it would be like you meet someone and you get married, right? Things have changed now. I feel like this is also a marriage when it comes to finding the right fit of an advisor team for a client, right? This is a long-term marriage. This is a long-term commitment. This is a long-term relationship, and we don't jump into it by just showing the best side of ourselves. We sit down and we talk about this is who we are. Ask us the difficult question, ask us the awkward questions, get to know us, take your time. You want a second meeting, take that. But let's not jump into the technical stuff of things until we have come to know each other or have had an idea about who we are as individuals and would we connect, because whether we accept it or not, most of us get that inkling whether we're going to connect with the person or not within, I don't know, the first meeting. So trusting that gut. So the first time is sitting down, taking the 2 hours or whatever amount of time we have designated for that first meeting is just getting to know you, right? So even in, I feel like the women and the professionals in STEM as well, yes, STEM is a huge world. We can't really narrow them down into just, okay, if you're from STEM, this is how you are. That is your professional side. But who are you as a person? What are the concerns you have? What drives you? What drove you to a career in STEM? Or what's driving you to enhance your career in this? Or what do you need in terms of financial support to make sure your career is going in the direction that you want it to go, right? So, anytime, this is my unsolicited tip to anyone who's listening out there is in your first meeting, if someone's talking about products, run away because then they are more interested in just investing and not really getting to know you. I take pride in the level of service and advice we give, but that comes from knowing you. I take more of a pride in our effort to get to know you than to just jump to the fact is how we can invest you. Because, for example, Gayatri, you and your husband share a household, but you could be two very different investors, very different. So I have to spend my time getting to know both of you, or let's say your kids grow up tomorrow and they're in that stage. Yes, you gave birth to them, you looked after them, but they could be completely different individuals from you guys. So not assuming that everyone who lives under the same household is exact the same, has the same concerns, has the same goals, has the same fears, has the same anxieties. Yes, your long-term goal might be the same, that I want to retire in, I don't know, by the beach. What does that mean? Retire at the beach. What does it mean? Let's break it down. So I think that's what it is. That's how we approach it, is we sit down, we get to know you, we get to know everything that we can about you. And after that is only when a proper plan is created to take the technical steps. So the technical advice comes after the human experience, because that's how it makes sense in my head. If I don't even know who you are, how do I know what I need to do for you? Like my brain
Absolutely.
just doesn't work like that.
Absolutely. If I don't know who you are, how do I know what I can do for you?
Yeah. Like, how do I know what kind of service you need from us? Not everyone is a blanket, needs the same kind of financial planning, needs the same kind of investment advice, it needs the same kind of estate planning, right? So, how
Mhm.
do we take the time and the patience and the respect to get to know you as a person, so that we find a plan that fits you, not that you fit a certain plan.
Absolutely. You know, what's so interesting, and this conversation actually does remind me of our panel that you hosted in June, right? About Sharma Wealth. What was it called?
Her money unstoppable woman.
Her Money Unstoppable Woman. I love that name too. One of the things that had stood out to me that day was, and I hate to say this, but I think it's important to say it, is this whole notion of shame
Yeah.
and stigmas that get associated to money itself, right? And I loved our moderator's question that day, Leah, who said, it's 2026 and why is it still weird to talk about money? And that question stuck with me because as you were sharing, I wondered, Shivika, because I think your work and my work is very similar in the sense I also hear a lot of stories and work with people to share their stories. And often we hit this kind of roadblock that we don't want to name, which might be shame, right? It's an experience or a circumstance that somebody faced that was shrouded in shame. And there's no way to actually talk about it for them. And as someone who facilitates story sharing, I also don't want to be putting someone on the spot to share something that they're uncomfortable sharing. But I'm just curious, earlier when you named that sometimes you see the difference between men and women where there's more certainty in men in expressing what they want to know or ask. And then there's maybe a little bit of hesitation. I don't know if I can put it that way for women. What do you think gets to that level of for someone to open up and actually share with you, these are my goals. And I don't want to say it because I don't know if I'm aiming for too much, or I don't know if my own past history with money is preventing me from setting this type of goal. How do you help those clients also to work through those layers?
I think the first thing we have to talk about and peel off in that meeting is share it without, share it unabashedly, share it shamelessly, share it proudly what your goal is. Okay.
Mm,
Because you just said it beautifully that sometimes we don't even know if we can reach those goals, right? That's the second step. That we'll worry about that later. But what really gets you up? What really excites you about your future? Forget if we can get there or not. The path of feasibility is where we come in. But I can dream for you. Your dreams are your
right.
own. You need to dream for yourself and go crazy, right? Because I will tell
Mhm.
you, if you're going too crazy, don't worry about it. But I would say 9 out of 10 times, those dreams are so reasonable. Sometimes I feel like we don't even dream outside of the box, because exactly is, oh my God, if I dream that big, I'm gonna look silly, because
Exactly.
look where I am and look what I'm dreaming for. You
I'm going
know?
to look silly. I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to
Exactly.
look like a fool for putting this
Exactly.
out there and then failing.
Exactly. And then I always go back to sharing with my prospects or my clients about kids. Have you heard a little child talk about their dreams? Have you seen the light in their eyes? Have you seen the hope, the surety, and the sheer excitement about what they want to do in the future? They have no idea about the feasibility, about the steps, but the sheer excitement in their eyes. And that's what I don't want us to forget. We knew how to dream. If you and I look back at our kids' childhood or even now, you can see, you can remember those moments where you saw your child. And do we go and tell them, no, you can't dream that way because that's too big? No, we encourage them to do that, right? That's what I tell my clients, especially my women clients, whether they are in STEM, whether they are in another field, is learn to dream first. That's where it starts. Okay. Once we have that dream, let's figure out how we're going to get there, what steps we need. Then comes the more technical part. Okay. So I'm telling you, the technical part is the easiest part. Easiest. People might think it's complicated, it's easiest, but the clients and the prospects, they do the heavy lifting by learning how to dream again. Because ask any adult as to what truly gets you up and running, or what truly gets you excited about the future, or simple question like, what do you really love to do if you had time on your hand? And just wait, because the answer doesn't come right away. We can say that we love our jobs, we love to spend time with our family. You know, what truly makes you that person who gets up and likes to do this thing, or about the future, that there's certain thing about the future that you just can't wait to get there.
And everybody has a dream like that.
Yeah.
But
Either
sometimes it's
you
just buried, right?
it honestly, you said it, it's worried. I don't think any of us is alive without dream, because that's a part of hoping for a better future. And without hope, there is nothing, in my opinion. So we all know it, but it's just in the pace of life we are in right now, it tends to get forgotten.
For
So
sure.
that's the first step, is whether, especially when women come into our offices, is tell us. Let's get to, and I'm telling you, more often than none, we have a lot of sessions which are emotional because we're asking some deep questions, but it's cathartic in a way that you don't allow yourself the time to think about yourself. You don't. None of us do. No, all of us are. No person can. I'm telling you, more people spend more time in thinking about others than about themselves.
Mhm.
Because, okay, how do I make my family's life better? How do I perform better at the job? How do I volunteer, or how do I show up for this friend? But most people, we like to say that we have a plan on how to show up for ourselves, but in reality, it gets left behind. It's the last priority for us.
It is, right? And even sometimes it becomes more fear-based, right? If I don't make income, I can't pay this bill. So then it feels like a total indulgence or luxury to think the other side of, what if I just had the freedom to dream?
Exactly. And dreaming doesn't have a cost associated to
That's true.
it.
You can still dream even if you're worried about paying the bills.
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, once you dream and then we go technical, it actually addresses the fears behind it. It really does. Or sometimes we don't even know how close we are to that dream, and we are stressed out. Or sometimes we need to know how far we are from the dream, so we are realistic and we know what it will need to get there. But the dream needs to be put down on a paper or needs to be discussed if you want that to be a reality.
Absolutely. I think the power of writing down and naming is underestimated. And I say this because, Shivika, you know from my first book, Landed, right? Where it was a group of 37 immigrant women who shared their stories. I can tell you, when we first started the workshops, because I led everyone through a workshop process to write and publish, the first workshop, there were so many people who had willingly signed up to be part of this. We had a wait list. It was a whole process to even be selected to be in the workshop. And we still had folks who felt like, but I'm not a writer, but I can't write, but doesn't this feel a bit indulgent to spend this time thinking about my story to write it down? But it was, I love that you said this is a cathartic process when it comes to sharing stories, because it was, even for us, like even for me as a facilitator, it was quite emotional, right? Because I think what I saw at the end of it was this was absolutely an act of hope. The immigration itself is an act of daring to hope, and to be able to write down, this is what I have been through and where I am now and what I'm proud of, that's also an act of hope, because it allows you to actually take stock of how far you've come and that you can actually accomplish what you set your mind to, right? And so that's the act of dreaming. And yeah, I just love that you, as part of your process, it is about naming and stating what that dream is. Because I wonder, I don't know if this happens with your clients or not, but I wonder, do you have folks who think when they hear the word dream, do they think that they have to give numbers? This is the number that I need to see myself at to retire? Because then how do you set that number, right?
Yes, more times than not, it's like, okay, yes, I need my $1 million to retire. That's my dream.
What's
And
the
that's,
magic number?
oh, yes, it's really because we've forgotten how to dream. We've become too transactional in life. So we've forgotten how to dream. So we really need to go back to the basics is, okay, but what are you going to do with those $1 million? What will you get up? Let's say you have the $1 million. What will you get up and do? I could volunteer at the shelter that I was thinking of, at the women's shelter or something else. Oh, I would love to take my entire family on vacation. Oh, I would love to learn this. I would love to learn that. And I would really like to open a coffee shop on the beach. Right? So you really have to have a lot of follow-up questions because that's where we as professionals come in, is now we are not just helping you create a technical financial plan, but we're also helping you to go back to the basics and say, what makes you happy? Okay. And these things to someone who's very nerdy like me can come across as very flaky questions. And I'm very well aware of that. Is, hey, I have hired you. You are a wealth management team. Why do I need to talk about my dreams? I've had that too. And I love being challenged. I just love being challenged. I think it triggers a different part of your brain, right? It makes you think more analytically. And I am very self aware. So, yes, it can come across as flaky, but all I say is just have patience with me for the next 10 minutes. And I'll tell you exactly why this is important and how I'm going to connect something that appears flaky to a very real human experience, plus one of the most fantastic financial plans you've seen. Just give me 10 minutes of your undivided attention and your patience, and you'll see how it all transforms into that. Because you and I might think that it's easy to come up with a dream because we meet a lot of people, we talk about conversations. You are one of the best narrators about stories or about bringing people's stories out. So it's very natural to you or something you might have worked hard on. Most people, it doesn't come naturally because they have been trained to, in the most conventional sense of the word, especially immigrants, especially women. This is what needs to happen at every stage of life. And because they've been trained that way, that part of their brain where it says, no, I don't need to have kids by this age, or no, I don't need to buy a home, I can rent for the rest of my life. Or no, I don't need to be married, I'm okay being single, or I'm okay being in a live-in, or whatever. So, to stop that thread of conventional living or living that we've been trained for generations to do and say, actually, I don't want any of this. I want any of this. I have a client of mine, actually, you actually met this individual, and this individual gave up everything and just went and traveled around the world. And I told her I was so inspired by it. I was so inspired. And I was like, let's make that dream happen. Let's make it happen. We are your team. because you have your entire life to earn your money, but you came up with a dream. Let's make it happen. So that's where it feels like it will not always come across as a very financially sound advice when we start talking to somebody when they don't know anything about us. But the patience of 10 minutes fits all the pieces of the puzzle in place, and it shows how you transcend for something that might sound very mushy to something that actually translates into a very holistic plan which shows your life on a paper.
I love that. As someone who is also trained to think analytically, I often joke about this because, and listeners on this podcast may know, because I've shared before as an engineer, that's been my training, right? To think analytically, logically, sometimes linearly. And then when I found myself leading a group of women in STEM through this process of, for the second book, The Fires We Lit, fiction fantasy. So we talk about dreaming, Shivika. That is completely about creativity and dreaming, right? Part of the workshop process for that was if you could reinvent your own next chapter, if you could create a new character for your story, it doesn't even have to be about you in the story that you're writing. It's just come up with a character. That was such an interesting process to kind of switch our brains from analytical to creative, to say, oh, hey, I get to be the author of my own chapter. I'm not defined by what's happened to me. I think that is dreaming. And sometimes we have to give ourselves that permission to dream. And you use the word flaky or mushy. And I'm chuckling because it's unfortunate that I think those words get associated with soft skills or air quote soft skills or maybe skills that are not as valuable in a STEM type of profession, but it's actually the thing that can make it happen, right? So can we be creative? Can we dream big? And then I love what you said about let's hold that structure beneath that dream to make it a reality.
Both need
So
to work together. Just dreaming and not coming up with a sound plan for it takes you nowhere. And coming up with a sound plan with no foundational dream is not going to feel very real to you. So they both
exactly.
really need to work together. And I think you said it is we are giving ourselves a permission to define our own chapter. And if you think about it, don't we already have that permission? We just don't realize it. At the end of the day, it is my life and I have the freedom to do whatever I want with it. But I didn't even know that because I have just had so much of advice given to me. And when I say I mean we as a generation or we as women in general, as we have had so much of unsolicited advice given to us from every corner of the world because of social media and how accessible it is, or what we should be doing and what we should not be doing, is sometimes it gets confusing and you just don't give yourself permission and say, I don't need to listen to these 10 random people. If I just take a moment and breathe, I know what's right for me. I'm just not listening to that voice that's inside because that voice has forgotten itself. Or I've forgotten I have that good wolf inside of me. We all know the story of the good wolf and the bad wolf, and whoever we feed more is going to come out, right? So I think you said it beautifully. And I truly believe that it's just about giving the permission because truly we are the only ones who can define our life. We are the only ones who can define our path. Even when you're accepting someone's advice, we are still making that decision to accept that advice.
100%. I love that you shared it so beautifully. Don't we already have that permission? And isn't that something that it takes, I don't know, a lot of almost unlearning, right? The rules, like it's funny because even this book, The Fires We Lit, the subtitle is Reimagining the Rules. But these rules that we've all inherited, it does take time to unlearn, to reimagine. Oh, wait a second, like I don't have to live my life by this advice or the rules that were prescribed to me, but I get to redefine that.
Yeah, absolutely. And redefine that, break that, remold that, like whatever
Right?
works, because we know what's right for us. I'm a strong believer of that. There is that, someone can call it a pit in the stomach, someone can call it anxiety, someone can call it a more clinical term, but we all know whether a certain decision is right for us or not. We just get clouded by so much of information. And especially I feel like the women in professionals in STEM, it's an area that's so upcoming, been there, and now suddenly it's back in the news again, where around the world, most of these professionals are the ones climbing up the ladder, right? But if you look at their journeys, they, I think the one common factor is they knew what was right for them. They did not follow the same path. They, just like you, holy, your journey is, I've told you this a million times, it is one of the most inspiring journeys I have ever come across. And you and I deal with a lot of people. So still be inspired by journeys. It's an unfortunate thing, but it takes a lot, right? Because we hear so many journeys. But look at your, like, where you started and what you're doing today. You shared on the panel, I remember in our event, is that's not what your parents expected out of you. You know?
Oh, I was definitely a rule follower. Rule following my parents' rules.
So I
Took
think it
a
just comes
couple
from
of
that.
decades by the time I decided that I don't have to keep following the rules.
See, the timing didn't matter. It was the time where you felt it was right for you. It spoke to you.
True. But Shivika, it's also, I think I've been lucky and blessed too to have a lot of mentors along the way, and especially folks who are not dismissive of the idea of dreaming, or not, again, those soft skills word comes to mind, right? Because there's this tendency or this other rule that we've learned that dreaming and all of these types of things are just soft skills that are waste of time or indulgent, and you shouldn't be, it's almost selfish to be taking time to do all that. I had to stop that inner voice and say, no, actually, it is my birthright to be able to dream. And yeah, I resonate so much with what you shared, is we have to give ourselves that permission.
Yeah. And talking about mentorship, this is my opinion about mentorship is it's like going on multiple dates. It's not easy to find the right set of mentors. It's not. Okay. People talk about mentorship as if it comes across very easy, that you just land up working for someone and they become a mentor, or you just meet someone at a networking event. It's not. It's very much about meeting, being open and vulnerable, to be going out and meeting multiple people, however your schedule allows you, and then finding the few that you walk away feeling not less.
Yeah.
You walk away feeling that I would want to hear what that person has to say again, because it made me feel like I could do better. It made me feel like it's okay, I haven't reached there yet, and made me feel like my opinion also matters. So I'm a strong believer that anyone who's in a position to mentor, and it's not coming from a professional position, it's coming from a position of time and space, should take some time out to do that, because you have no idea what impact you have on someone's journey, right? And to someone
100%.
who's looking for a mentor, I feel like you said it perfectly, is we were lucky enough to have those mentors, but they didn't just land in our lap.
Exactly.
I know I've had to work hard to get the mentors in my life. I know I still, in spite of running a business, having a family, having all the other events we do, I still make sure that I take the time out to be in touch with my mentors and to meet them on a regular basis. Because now it's a relationship and I'm still learning from them, and I hope I never stop learning.
100%.
So mentorship is not given the importance that it deserves. And also, I feel like it's regarded as it comes easy.
And it doesn't. It
No.
doesn't. It is a relationship. It's a reciprocal relationship.
Yes.
And it takes those multiple dates, like you said,
Yeah.
right? To find the right connection as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it should be both ways. It should not be that let's say, if I'm being mentored by someone, I'm the only one reaching out. Even the person mentoring me should feel like we're connecting and also wants to reach out and connect. You know what?
Absolutely.
That's the health of a relationship, because that's when it becomes a relationship and not dependency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling, Shivika, that you are also, in a way, a mentor to others, and including your clients, right? Because your journey is so inspiring yourself as someone who is having your own business, having a family, you're doing so many things and doing things in the community. I really think that you're someone who's so inspiring, and you're a mentor, natural mentor yourself. And I'm just curious, for those who are listening today and who are maybe taking away this idea of, hey, let me start dreaming again. Let me think about financial planning of not just the dollars and cents and the products, but how can I start to dream bigger, and then the financial plan will follow. What do you hope that those folks can take away, and how can someone like that reach out to you to work with you, to be mentored by you, to just have a conversation with you?
So, as how do they start? I think to start, don't just go to, if you're looking for the next steps in your financial journey, I would say interview multiple teams. Okay, you might have heard me today and you might be like, yes, I connect and this and that. And you might feel like you want to just work with us. But I would still say interview multiple teams, because then you know who's the right fit for you, right? I would love to be the advisor team for every person out there, but of course we can't be. And of course, we're not the right fit for everyone, and we are very self-aware of that. However, no matter where you're getting your information about advisor teams, definitely interview a few, because then you'll know who's the right fit, what they're saying, and you'll also have that faith that I didn't just put in an offer on the first house I saw. We always have that regret is, oh my God, I wish I'd seen more, right? So definitely interview a few more. And to take it a step forward, when you're interviewing, don't be awkward about asking questions. Questions like, how do you get paid? What are you going to do for me? How much does this cost? How often can I reach out to you? And what other services do you offer apart from just investing the money? So don't be awkward about those questions, because the foundation of the relationship has to be based on transparency, honesty, and without any intimidation. So that's what I would say someone's looking to get into the financial planning and the investment management of their journey. How to get in touch? We're very active on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Shivika Sharma, on LinkedIn. We are working on our business page for Sharma Wealth, so that should be coming up soon too. You can email us at sharmawealth@richardsonwealth.com, and or you can just send a message over LinkedIn as well if that works and you don't want to be sending an email. I have been told that people have Googled me. I don't know what comes up. I should be looking at that. So if you are into Google, please feel free to do so. But I would say LinkedIn is the fastest way to get in touch with us, because that is monitored. We look after that, because most of our clients and prospects come from that through mutual connections. So normally people would come into that. However, it's very easy to find my contact information if you just to put my name on Google, Shivika Sharma, Richardson Wealth, or Sharma Wealth Calgary. You will have my direct contact information in there.
Amazing. I will make sure to link all of those in the show notes. And I do have one other question for you, which I ask all my guests, which is to complete the sentence, I feel a sense of belonging when.
This I will not I will not lie. This was the toughest question. Because belonging is very different in different parts of your life, as I was talking about. But to have a holistic belonging, you truly need to know yourself. You truly need to reflect. So you really made me reflect on this question when you had given me a heads up on this one. but I still didn't come up with an answer until this morning.
Okay.
It was so thinking about it. I think I feel a sense of belonging when people we meet feel comfortable being honest about what they don't know. Because in those moments, when someone says, as I've been confused about this for a while, or I didn't want to ask because I felt like I should already know this, that's when you can feel that shift when they realize that it's okay to not have all the answers. It's perfectly fine. And especially for women and high achieving professionals and in the area of STEM, I feel a sense of belonging because no matter how, and again, honesty, again, I'm going to take a step back. Honesty doesn't come, if someone's not being honest, doesn't mean they're not capable enough or they are not educated enough or this. No, it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with the society in general. Okay. Because I remember a conversation I had with a client who was incredibly successful in her career, incredibly, like you can think of every pinnacle that she's reached, very analytical, very driven. And she said to me almost very quietly, I've been avoiding meeting someone like you for years because I felt like I should already understand it. And she
Wow.
just broke down. And you could say that it wasn't about the money. It was about the pressure she was feeling that how she's going to appear to me and what would I think of her. As we started to talk, I could see that shift happen. And I see those kind of shifts happen in our annual events with Her Money Unstoppable Women each year because we are very choosy and picky about who we invite to talk on that stage. Because I don't want people who, no offense, but I don't want people who think that they know everything. Because I truly believe we all don't. But I want people who are okay to say, I don't know this, but I didn't give up wanting to find an answer. So I think that's where I truly feel my belonging is you come to see me and you're honest about what you don't know.
Shivika, I just want to say that this has felt like one of the most vulnerable moments. And I've hosted many of these episodes, and I love every answer that each guest I get to learn something new. And I feel this was one of the most vulnerable moments because being honest to admit what we don't know, isn't that the essence of belonging? Is that when you can still do that and not feel that you're going to be judged or penalized or punished in some way for being able to admit that you don't know something, that is where that is the essence of belonging. And the fact that you can create those spaces for your clients, Shivika, I think that's a true gift that you bring. So thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you. And I hope this becomes my dream is that this truly becomes the foundation of our wealth management industry because a lot of people feel intimidated or many several emotions that I won't be able to put in one podcast to reach out to us. They feel like they have to be in this perfect financial shape or at this stage of life before they reach out to us. But at the end of the day, we are here to help you get there. So if you're already in that perfect financial shape, which I don't think exists, you really don't need us.
True, right? But it's
You
it's
know?
so it's interesting because we don't think of the same way when, let's say, you have a toothache and you go to the dentist, or it, it doesn't have to be something like that, but even preventative stuff. Oh, I just need to get my teeth cleaned every 6 months. But there isn't that baggage of emotions of shame that come with that. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
it should be the same with wealth and money and finances too, right? So
exactly. Exactly. The retirement doesn't come in a day, or any sense of goal achievement doesn't come in a day. It's you're working that muscle over the years. You know how we
exactly.
We were talking about your amazing bike ride this morning, but it's like you didn't just start biking on the first day. You work towards that, right? So it's like working towards, so finance is just that, reaching that goal is just that. We have to work that muscle every single year for us to get to that place. It just doesn't happen. We call it the critical 10, 5 years before your retirement, 5 years after your retirement, right? So, but even to get to that critical 10, there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done. So you're absolutely, if there is a toothache and you're coming to us, it's a little too late.
It's a little too late.
Yeah.
And if you're, and there should be no shame in coming to a preventative type of thing too, where you go, I need to plan in advance.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that, right? And Shivika, I was actually going to ask you, and I know I was, it probably will feel like putting you on the spot, but I think you already answered it, is what is your dream? And I think
Oh,
you just shared a little bit of it, but I want to hear more.
I think that is essentially my dream. The sense of belonging was very close to that. And I think if I had to put it in, if I had to all wrap it around, it would be continuing to create the wealth practice that we learn, where we see people as people and not the dollars they bring on the table, where they see us not as just that the advisor team, but a team that has their back no matter what. Having that sense of environment where hope thankfully our clients have given us the feedback, they already feel it. And that's the dream, that we continue to create that environment where we got it covered. You are well looked after by us, not because of all the money that you have. We're very proud that you're here, but because of the people you are, because that's where the relationship starts.
100%. Shivika, you've given us so many gems to reflect on this episode, and I'm sure our listeners will take so much away. And thank you so much for being here and for all that you do. I'm looking forward to September 12th, which is our book launch celebration. Thank you again for being one of the sponsors of that event. And thank you for just creating this safe space to dream.
Oh, thank you. This didn't, I told you I'm not, this is not what I do, like talk like this, but you just made it so easy. You just made it so organic. It was like you and I were having coffee. I just didn't feel, thank you for creating a space where I could be myself.
And that, for me, is my definition of belonging. So full circle, where I just get to be myself and where others can just get to be themselves without any pretenses, right?
Exactly. Otherwise, how will people get to know who we are?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shivika.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Hearth to Heart. I'm your host, Gayathri Shukla, founder of Campfire Kinship. If you'd like to learn more about storytelling, come visit campfirekinship.com. If you liked today's episode, hit the subscribe button and join us for future episodes. This podcast is being produced in partnership with CJSW 90.9 in Treaty 7 land in Calgary.